doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Armed American security contractors at one of the sites discuss how to disperse Palestinians nearby.
Hey, got an IDF tank posted on the northwest corner now. I brought him in and talked to him. There's two the chauffeurs. I told him to hold there. I don't want this to be too aggressive.
At that moment, bursts of gunfire erupt close by, at least 15 shots. The camera's view is obscured by a large dirt mound. The contractor who took the video told AP that he saw other contractors shooting in the direction of Palestinians who had just collected their food and were departing.
Мне сказали просто проследить за этой машиной, и тогда мне дадут деньги.
Что ты делала сейчас?
Я пыталась какое-то устройство подложить под
Какое
машину.
I wanted to ask about, I understand the decision on which weapons to provide to Ukraine being one taken at the Pentagon, but from a diplomacy standpoint, does pausing the weapon deliveries for Ukraine make it more difficult to get Russia to come to the table in terms of a peace agreement or a ceasefire because it somehow relieves potential pressure on them?
It's a very good question, but it's good that it's not going to be a factor because we haven't paused sending weapons to Ukraine. This is one aspect, one situation, one event that has been changed. As you heard from the DoD, there are multiple robust other options and efforts regarding the Ukrainian situation with weapons. Again, I don't speak for the DoD. I can only refer to their statement and to what they've stated very bluntly. The president has also indicated his remaining commitment regarding Patriot missiles. This is not, I will reinforce this is not a cessation of us assisting Ukraine or of providing weapons. This is one event in one situation, and we'll discuss what else comes up in the future, but be wary of painting too broad a brush there.
Let me introduce you to Candace Taylor. She's a newly elected district chair for the Republican Party in Georgia.
I'm not a scientist because that is a made-up job, but I know that the Earth is flat, okay? Because if the Earth was round, why would maps be flat? They can never answer that, okay? And people want to be like, well, oh, if the Earth is flat, then what about night and day? I don't know. Let me think about it. Maybe because the Earth is double-sided and God flips us over when it's time for us to go to bed and flips us back over when it's time for us to wake up, like I do with my husband. Like, use your brain. Use your head for a minute. If the Earth was round like a globe, everything would be falling off of it. All the oceans would be dripping down it like ice cream, okay? Unless the Earth is a DQ blizzard where nothing falls out. But even then, sometimes things do fall out and they do have to give you your money back. So that doesn't really make sense to me. They're trying so hard to make us think the earth is a globe. I see globes on TV, globes at my children's school. I saw a globe at Hobby Lobby, a place of worship. Hobby Lobby, there is a globe there. I mean, if I were a normal person, there would be a globe behind me, but I have a rotary telephone that's not hooked up to anything, so Bill Gates can't track me, okay? Because I'm using my head.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We have a full show today on this pre-holiday July 4th. By the way, tomorrow we'll be streaming something patriotic. We're not really sure yet, but we'll be out enjoying time with family. So we won't have a live show on this crew on the SCIF tomorrow. Wow, there's so much going on. You saw, I was down in Mississippi recently, and there was a big stink on the bayou, and I was like, "What is that smell?" And they said that is the pogie plant. Well, actually, I think it was the Georgia GOP, because that place is stinking up there, and we're going to dig into it. You saw Candace Taylor, one of the McCoon supporters. That was a while back, but when she got elected as a district chair. But the collapse and federal seizure of First Liberty, of the Frost family business, who's the big donors to the Trump campaign. Charlie Kirk was pushing their products at Turning Point, Eric Erickson, John Fredericks, and it doesn't look good. So that's to come next week, but there's going to be a lot on that. We'll talk about that a little bit today, but we're going to focus today on Christian persecution and corruption. A lot of the churches are corrupt. We found in the past churches taking money. Candace Owens has been talking about this. We're going to talk about this in depth because this is to the very root of our republic's founding, and something that is important to discuss because nobody else is talking about it. Nobody in Conservative Inc. is talking about it. Wonder why? Maybe it's because they're taking that First Liberty money. Who knows? But we're going to talk about it today, and we're going to have Jake Dell, a Christian pastor in Connecticut at the Congregational Church, I think in Woodbury. Daniel Rhodes, who runs a nonprofit in Nigeria, trying to make a difference there. And then later in the show, we're going to have Roberty Kraychik, one of our faves, on the show to discuss what is going on in Canada. My goodness. And I had our favorites, Chris Gleason and Jeff Morgiano, call me last night and say, look, dudes, we got something we got to come on the show to talk about. So you're going to get all of that today. Wow, it's going to be a lot. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're clear to hot on the comments. Love the engagement going already. Check out whatfinger.com, our partner. They put up a lot of our content. It's a great aggregation site. In the morning after you check cdm.press and all of our other sites, if you want to dig around the network, go to whatfinger.com and check out whatever else they're putting out. Great aggregation site. We got a lot to talk about today. Let's just jump into the mission brief real quick because we're going to be busy. I'm L Todd Wood. It is July 3rd. I'm your host on the SCIF. Here's your mission brief. The Georgia GOP stinks like a pogie plant on the bayou in Mississippi. SEC ends enforcement action against crypto. That's bigger than you think. And we're going to have Rob Cunningham on Monday morning to talk about that. He's Mr. Crypto. Payroll print blowout right before the show. There's an article up on cdm.press right now. A lot about that I want to discuss. And part of that is on interest rates. It may give the Fed cover to keep interest rates high to keep hurting President Trump, but we will see. The BBB, the big beautiful bill, is still not passed as of going to production this morning. Didn't pass overnight. Speaker Johnson's got a problem. Enough House members to block it in the House after the Senate changed a lot of it. Protestant churches breaking bad. That's another one. And we're going to have, I mentioned Jake Dell on shortly. And then second segment, the Florida crime investigators, Gleason and Borgiano. And then we got Daniel Rhodes and Roberty Kraychik later on Canada. So a lot to talk about. We'll be right back. This is the SCIF. Thanks for joining us this morning.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
So we are in the factory in Kentucky. This is Alp World HQ, and we are at the end of the packing line. So I'm going to show you how it works. We have a card, throw that in there. There's a packing slip, and then you have the Alp. And 4, but that seems honestly like a lot. 3 now, but it's good. You just pack a punch that, for a normal nicotine brand, it'd be like 8. We think 3 is fine. Next one. Again, 4. Let's go 3 in just to keep it fair. Okay? There you go. So you can see you can get fast at this. And really, it's just a matter of repetition. This is kind of the assembly line that, Henry Ford devised so long ago.
Tucker, stealing all the alcohol.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to show you something. The Connecticut Sentinel, our editor Jackie Homan sent me this, and she said you got to have this guy on, Pastor Jake Dell of the Woodbury Congregational Church in Connecticut. Check out the article on the Connecticut Sentinel. That's ConnecticutSentinel.com, spelled with a C, the old revolutionary way. But he's with us today, and I'll bring him in now. Pastor, thanks for coming on this morning. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on, Todd.
So I was really looking forward to talking to you because I'm a PK. My dad was a Presbyterian minister for 42 years. I totally get where you're coming from. And I've seen a lot of this when I was up in Connecticut at some of the churches. But tell us the gist of your article, and then I want to go from there.
Well, the gist of the article is that I got tired of seeing these rainbow flags on churches up and down Main Street all across this country. I drove into West Hartford a couple of weeks ago, and there was a giant Progress flag flying from the flagpole. And it occurred to me, this is just debauchery. This is licentiousness. There has to be some way to stop this. And sure enough, in the Connecticut Constitution, in the first article, Section 3, even though there's the guarantee of the free exercise of religion, there's a clause there that says, provided churches are not engaged in licentious behavior. So that became the gist of my sermon last week, which the texts were from First Kings, where Elijah casts his mantle over Elisha and anoints him a prophet to take up the Jehovah's battle against idol worship, and then Jesus is basically doing the same thing with his disciples, sending them out with spiritual weapons. And I thought, the law really is a spiritual weapon that God gives us, that he's given us to wield. And our forefathers, Christian men who founded this constitution state, wrote that into the law. I think they knew that religion could go sideways, and they wanted some restraint on it, even though they were very much pro free exercise and freedom of conscience and freedom of religion.
That is so refreshing to hear from a pastor. I have to say, it's shockingly refreshing. I had been, when I was up in Connecticut, going to a church in Fairfield, a congregational church, and they were left-leaning, very kind people, but one of they were talking global warming and all that, and I could kind of go along with that and tolerate it. But then one morning they got up and started preaching transgender, and I just said, this is not Christianity. And I confronted the pastor, and he got angry and I guess hurt in his mind. But that's not Christian. Mutilating children is not Christianity.
It's
right?
Absolutely not. It's actually Baalism, which is what Elijah was preaching against. I mean, we've gone full circle in our depravity here. And I think one of the things that really spurred me on to do this was just the Project Veritas video that came out last week that featured allegedly a pastor in Connecticut basically assisting a minor to obtain access to what's called a chest binder, which even the person on the video acknowledges is only for people over 18. And I thought, well, regardless of what you think about adults doing this, we're talking about something that is impacting minor children against the law. And when pastors are engaged in aiding and abetting law breaking, set aside whatever you think about this. That's just licentiousness. That's the very definition of disorder. And it's a threat to the orderly government and civil rule. And the Constitution, the highest law in the state requires the Attorney General of the state to do something about it.
Connecticut is very special. It's the cradle of liberty, and there's so many religious names on the towns here. Canaan, Bethlehem, because the people who immigrated here were trying to start the New Jerusalem or whatever. And I didn't realize you mentioned Baal, and I think that is everywhere. You saw it in the Olympics in France with the calf on the wall that they were worshiping or whatever. But the word cannibal comes from Canaan and Baal. I didn't know this. I mean, it's eating your children. It's the same thing you're talking about. It's fascinating when you dig into the history.
That's right. The cult of Cybele was a cult where the priests would castrate themselves and burn their genitals to the goddess. I mean, nothing is new. Nothing is new under the sun.
So tell us about what you're going to do. What's your progress or your way forward, I guess, on all this?
Well, I preached the sermon. It was probably one of the most sort of intense sermons I've ever preached. It got a good response from the congregation. And I've sent letters now to Attorney General William Tong asking him to act, to at least open an investigation into these churches. I'm told from the Connecticut Sentinel, which picked up this story, that they're aware of other churches that are engaged in the same kind of behavior. I sent a copy of that letter to Attorney General Tong, to Attorney General Pam Bondi, and also to the Religious Liberty Commission, whose opening hearing I attended last month in Washington, D.C. The free exercise of religion, as I said, does not give one the free exercise to sin. And what we have now is we have counterfeit faith, counterfeit religion, operating under the protection of the First Amendment with all of the privileges that gives them, but it's diluting the stock. It's diluting the currency, if you will. Those of us who are preaching the true faith are being lumped in with these people who are fake, really preaching a fake version of Christianity, and now I think have crossed the line into just law breaking.
So the Congregational Church, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe back in the founding of the nation that there was kind of an agreement between the Presbyterians and the Congregationalists. The Presbyterians went south, Congregationalists were more up in the New England area. But you see a lot of rainbow flags on the congregational churches, Black Lives Matter, I mean, what is that?
Well, I think that's typical of mainline Protestantism in this country throughout, across the board, whether it's the Episcopal Church, the Presbyterian Church, the United Church of Christ, Unitarians. You see, that's what you see, and I think that goes way back. It has its roots, I think, in the fundamentalist modernist controversy in the 1920s. When J. Gresham Machen left the Presbyterian Church. And then fast forward through the 1960s, I think you see deliberate subversion of mainline Protestant pulpits through the seminaries, the kind of men and then later women they were turning out. Really did not believe in a supernatural view of the world. They did not believe in an inspired, authoritative biblical text. They were soft on things like the resurrection, and then that that opened the door even as early as the early 1970s to an embrace of homosexuality and alternative lifestyles and sexualities that took root in these churches. It took a generation or more for them to triumph, and here we are living with that moment right now.
So how do we, I mean, you're right. All the denominations, a lot of people are leaving I'm a Presbyterian, leaving PCUSA, going to more Orthodox versions. But it's a shame to abandon these church organizations. Can it be saved?
I think it can be saved. I think that these are tactics like what I'm exploring here with the constitutional avenue, getting the state to take a look at these so-called churches may get them to actually reform themselves, or at least stop their most egregious things they're doing wrong. The other thing I'm looking at is donor intent. You have hundreds in the case of these old churches, you've got hundreds of years of bequests and wills and money that's been given over the years, endowments that are worth millions, land that was purchased and given for the purposes of maintaining a Christian church. There's an example I like to use in Bridgeport, where the first Congregational Church of Bridgeport was sold to become a mosque. Now, I realize that churches go defunct and people move away, neighborhoods change, and you may not necessarily be able to support all these old historic churches, but I can guarantee you that the people who gave the money to build that church in the last century did not intend for it to be a mosque. And so, I think that there's probably a whole class of beneficiaries out there, heirs, who would be able to make a claim against these churches whenever they're up for sale, whenever there's a transaction, just based on the grounds that this is not what my ancestors intended. They did not intend to see a rainbow flag. They did not intend to see something other than Christianity preached from here. And so if there's going to be these kinds of transactions, then I think a class exists that can claw back some of that money. And what I would like to do is see some of that money that's clawed back, A, go to the heirs, but B, go into a trust that can raise up godly men, train them in a biblical seminary, and then put them back into these historic pulpits and fund them and give them the money that they can actually make a living preaching the gospel.
Wow. We want to help you with that, because my family got off the boat. They're buried in Middleton. They ended up going all over the country, but I'm one of those ancestors, so I want to help you.
You're one of the heirs potentially. Yeah.
So attendance, you mentioned, I think Jackie mentioned, or you did in the article, has increased in churches that actually do preach the Bible, and they are declining in places that don't. Are you seeing that in your experience?
You'll always find the exception that proves the rule. So I'm sure there's some liberal megachurch out there that's preaching the rainbow dogma, and they're packed to the gills. But for the most part, these mainline churches that have gone liberal and gone woke are dying. And some of the projections that I've seen is that they're in the Episcopal Church, that the last Episcopalian's already been born, right? That there won't be any by 2050. Now, what I've seen in my own church since I came here in November of 2024, we're a historic church. We're 355 years old, literally the first church in this area. And it was a dwindled remnant congregation that was about thinking seriously of closing the church, but they said, let's try one more time. We connected through various networks that I was part of, and I came and took the call, and we've doubled the size of the congregation in just 6 months, which is very exciting to see the Lord bless a very clear, bold preaching of the gospel, right? And I mean, I would say that's the other thing that has to happen here too. We can't just preach, part A of the gospel, which is you're a sinner and you need Jesus to be saved. There's part B. Once you've been saved, you now need to go out and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to do do all that I've commanded you, right? And that command part is where the law really gets applied. There's a threefold ministry that the church is called to in its imitation of Christ, prophet, priest, and king. And the king part is where Christians are really called to engage in politics and engage in the political realm.
Well, Christianity is the only religion you can hate, right?
Well, that's true, and that's probably a tell, isn't it? That it's got something true.
Exactly. What do you think you're going to get from the Connecticut government? I mean, they're part of all this, right?
Well, I'm not holding my breath waiting for a response. Yeah. That's why I went to Bondi. That's why I've reached out to Religious Liberty Commission. I'm trying to build those networks. I'm trying to build a coalition with prayer groups and other churches in Connecticut, other pastors who are waking up, Republican town committees, Republican candidates. This is not a partisan effort, but there is one party that's more friendly than the other, and that's just the way the reality of things are.
Sure.
Things are. And so I'm trying to change the landscape here in Connecticut, because I don't expect the politicians to lead. They're not going to stick their necks out. They've got to follow the votes, but the preachers we can stick our necks out. We can prepare the landscape. We can change the landscape. Kind of like, when you're preparing a battlefield, you go in you drop the leaflets first. You go in with the propaganda, and you try to soften up the population so that they're ready for the offensive when it comes. And I think us preachers historically in Connecticut, we preached the American Revolution. That's exactly what we did. We prepared the people for independence. And we're talking today on the eve of our 249th anniversary of our independence. So I'd like to see preachers in Connecticut do it again. I'd like to see preachers throughout New England do it again.
Wow. So we want to help with that effort.
Well, thank you.
Maybe you should think about writing like a column every now and then for the Connecticut.
Yeah, we'd love to. Thank you.
So that could be something right there, because we're totally open to that in all religions, actually. But what about money being given to the pastors? There's been some reports out recently that some churches have been taking Bitcoin and other things from certain NGOs or whatever to talk about certain things or influence populations. Have you seen any of that in your experience in Connecticut?
Well, I haven't seen that directly in terms of individual pastors being paid, but certainly when Doge first got going, we saw the data dumps from USAID, and a lot of those were going to refugee resettlement programs that were operated by Catholic Charities, Lutheran Charities, Episcopal Migration Ministry. So, I don't have the long list, the exhaustive list, and you have to check the actual detail. But what I recall is that most of the mainline denominations were getting money from the government for things like refugee resettlement, and just like advertising buys influence, I think we've got to assume that maybe there's not a quid pro quo that can be proved, but money talks.
Totally, and I think it's behind a lot of the transgender stuff too being preached. Pastor, thank you. Where can people follow you?
Well, I'm at Experimental Sermons on Substack, and then my X handle is at Jake Dell 73, and then I'm at the First Congregational Church of Woodbury. So just Google that, Woodbury, Connecticut. You'll find our webpage, and you'll find links to everything there.
Fantastic. We'll have you back. Have a great day.
Great. Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke, I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We have foot, slog, slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I just want to highlight Nucleo Boost. We're going to be doing some more interviews with Dr. Waterman. This stuff is not candy, but it is the real deal nutrition for you at the cellular level with the BioAllo to get it into the cells, just like hydrochloroquine it was the gun, but the zinc was the bullet during COVID. Same thing here. You get the nutrition into your cell with this. Check out the subscription at cdmnutrition.com. It's cheaper monthly than buying it one at a time. So please check out Nucleo Boost and take care of your family. Put it in your smoothie, your yogurt, whatever, however you want to do it. But if you get it daily, your stamina will increase and you'll feel yourself just much better. I've got the Batman and Robin of election fraud in Florida with us today. Come on in, guys. How you doing?
Good. We're doing good, Todd. Todd, thanks for that. It's doing great.
You've been really busy. What's going on?
First, so Jeff had his kangaroo Marxist show trial the other day here in Palm Beach County. It was for an evidentiary hearing, and coincidentally, he was prevented from presenting any witness testimony and evidence.
Any evidence at an evidentiary hearing. And it wasn't a coincidence. This was premeditated, and this has been going on. So as folks may or may not know, I brought on an election challenge at the county level in Palm Beach County. And, you know, that the fraud and the official misconduct and the corruption is blatant. And they're doing everything they can in their power to hide it, to stop it, to prevent it from getting out there. And I thank you for this chance to have some reach. And
tell us about what happened to you. We've had you on many times, but give us the elevator pitch of what is happening in your case and why you're there.
Yeah, we have all self-authenticating evidence that proves the fraud. We have their own words, their own transcripts, their own sworn affidavits submitted to the federal court in a prior case. It admits that they tampered with records and they withheld statutory records. Now, you know, we've been talking about records and electronic, breaches and all technical stuff. So I decided to take another approach, and I was ridiculed for this by a lot of people because the sheriffs are part of the ground game to silence the people and to prevent this from getting out. And it came to life right in front of Chris's face. Literally, I was told I put 14 witnesses down to testify, and the judge said, no, you get one witness and you can ask one question. So Batman or Robin called in Batman or vice versa. And it was if the glove fits, you must acquit moment. I said, Your Honor, if we could just turn that screen on. Now, mind you, Chris is sworn in. He's sitting at the stand, and I had to ask a question. And they object. I asked it 13 different ways, and they objected 12 times until finally I was able to worded in a where the Marxists with a kangaroo court allowed it to be asked. And Chris started to give his answer, and I will turn it over to Chris for his account of if the glove fits, you must acquit moment.
So the attorney who is illegally using taxpayer funds to defend Wendy Link in her election challenge, we had written an article about him about a week or so ago. He was there, and he got all mad at me, and he said, "You're lying. You have a podcast. You know, you can be prosecuted for lying." And then the judge looked at me and says, "Yeah, you can be prosecuted." And so I turned and I looked at the judge dead square in the face, and I said, "Prosecuted for what? Telling the truth?" And she didn't say anything. And I mean, it really was witness intimidation. They wanted to intimidate me to not testify on behalf of Jeff and on behalf of what we saw going on. And so Jeff, he's like, "Well, Your Honor, you know, we can put the exhibits right up here on the screen." And the sheriff deputy bailiff was standing there right in front of the judge, and he gave her a glare unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Shook his head no.
And he's shaking his head no. And so then the judge looks at Jeff, and she's like, "No." So it's like, okay, so who's really wearing the robe here?
Yeah.
So then this whole thing goes down, and where they're not gonna let Jeff have any witness testimony. They're not gonna let him present any of the self-certifying federal and state records. So that's a big problem, right? So we went into this understanding and knowing that they were going to try to interfere with Jeff's case because the supervisor of elections never provided any of the statutorily required election records. Okay, they just outright said no, they don't exist. No, there's no responsive records.
In the transcript from the prior hearing, the attorney said, "Well, he got his answer. He didn't get the records, and he just doesn't like it." And Your Honor, if that's anything, it's a minor sunshine law violation. No, that's official misconduct. These are official election records needed. They must audit them before they certify the election. So they're boxed into a binary position. Either they're truthful and the records don't exist, and there were no responsive records as they indicated in my public records request, or they went ahead and they certified those records. They certified the election without those records, meaning they illegally administered, certified the election. And Todd, I don't know, can you see my screen share at all?
Let me try to make you bigger here. Yeah, I can see your screen share. Go ahead and share the screen. You mean behind you or what? You mean?
Oh no, I have another. I'm logged in twice, and one is shared right now, I believe. If you see,
I don't have it on. I don't. Oh, let me see. Yeah. Okay, I didn't see that. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Up now. There we go.
Nice and easy for you. And
yeah.
Well, let's see what we got. It looks like. Why are you seeing that screen? Okay, terrific. Just give. Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take that down.
Let's see where that is. Yeah, it's a bunch of
so essentially, Todd, what Jeff had on the screen was self-certifying official election records that I had obtained in Hillsborough County during for the 2018, 2020, and 2022 general elections, and what those audit logs that Craig Latimer, the Hillsborough County Supervisor Elections, have provided to us conclusively show that there were more votes than ballots cast. So what we saw was 0 votes and 1,583 ballots cast. We would see 2 ballots cast with 8,597 votes. And that's deeply, deeply problematic. Deeply problematic. And
it's fraud.
Yeah, it's fraud, and machine level fraud. And that's why Wendy Link and other supervisors of elections have refused, denied, delayed, and and concealed these election records in all of the cases. And they've tampered with them too. I mean, we did the public records requests, for Palm Beach County.
So this is the record that we requested. This is the system log file, and in the rule. So the rule is closest to the politician or the person who's the custodian who's responsible. So in the rule, this report must be reported on, and it must be disseminated in a public records request. Now you'll see why they're refusing to give it to us. Can you read that screen? Is it we have votes? You can see how it's highlighted where it says votes exceed ballots.
Yep.
And this is an official log file. And there's other damning things. If you look on top of that, we have ballots 7, total 2,754. So this, this was if the glove don't fit, you must acquit, because they don't balance. The balances don't fit. Okay, to put it in the colloquialism, the balance don't fit. Okay, this is the general ledger doesn't balance, and they're hiding this. They're trying to change the rule that allows us to get this information. Not that they abide by it, but right now there's a proposed rule change, and every time Chris catches them or we catch them with something, the Florida supervisors of elections goes to Tallahassee and they lobby Don Gates and they change the laws, they weaken the laws to hide this kind of malfeasance. And this is the smoking gun. If Donald Trump wants to start an investigation it's all here, signed, sealed, and delivered. Okay, we have the goods. Local action has national impact. Someone said that once, and we're here ready to deliver it and lock these people up once and for all. The sheriff intimidation is brutal in this county. I posted last night on Twitter. People didn't really get it. I said, "Welcome to Palm Beach County, where every day is J6." They dragged me out of canvassing board meetings and did not allow me to return for the entire election cycle because I was pointing out all of the things that they're trying to hide. They intimidated like 8 of my authorized campaign designees by law, by Florida statute. They're protected, and they trespassed them under a local county ordinance that says you have to give formal writing. So the person, we always need due process, right? So they're trespassing people like it's going out of style, and they're not sending them the formal written notice required in County Ordinance 21-63C. And this is just following the Constitution, right? You need due process. They're not sending out these formal written notices, and they're not even telling us why we're trespassed. I spoke to a 60-year-old plus woman last night who was about to do a Bible study class, who went to an art show, beeped her horn because the line was being run, the parking line to collect the money, all backed up. It was being run very ineffectively. She beeped once. She had a Trump sticker on the back of her car. They dragged her out. They took her into a psych cell, strip searched her, and held her overnight. We need Harmeet Dillon to look at Palm Beach County. This is Mississippi burning on steroids.
It's pretty bad, Todd.
They ridiculed me for months. Why are you going to go down that rabbit hole? No, you can't see a log file, but you can see these demons wearing green, dragging people out of canvassing board meetings, arresting them, strip searching them. It's brutal.
Todd, it's bad. I mean, I was actually one of those people that were ridiculing Jeff. We were joking about it, but I had no idea how bad it was until I got on the witness stand. And at a certain point during my testimony, the sheriff's deputy said he was about to go hands-on to physically remove me from the witness stand.
There was more deputies in the room than there were witnesses.
It seems to me it's very obvious this is some kind of foreign cabal that's in charge of our government, and they will do anything to stop the people from taking back their government. I mean, you're seeing the same thing in Georgia. At the Georgia convention.
It was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in courtrooms, many courtrooms, and I have never seen anything like this before in a civil trial. I mean, I was intimidated. So first, they're threatening me with criminal prosecution, right? And then you have a sheriff's deputy who's about to go hands-on, drag me off of the witness stand.
And they do it to us. Imagine what the other people like this Cindy, who was strip searched and put in a suicide watch cell, no seats, no benches, held overnight for no reason.
How old was that woman?
Well, you never tell a woman's age. She's in her 60s. She looks great. She does Bible study class. Everything they hate is what she stands for.
Well, my point is she wasn't 18, right? So it wasn't easy for her in the cell. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It wasn't. And there's also I have evidence of Wendy Link, whose office fills out what's called an off-duty application permit, where they hire the Green Demons, the sheriff, to come in and do security. And in the special instructions, it says to observe candidates and their representatives. It says, out of an abundance of caution, based on comments at the county commissioners meetings, where we go and try to regrade our grievances, and they spin it on us. They fill out these applications, and they pay for them using taxpayer funds, and they threaten, intimidate, and silence us. And that is what everyone sees, and this is taxpayer dollars. And if you could share the screen as we speak about taxpayer dollars, they're insisting that Wendy Link's defense is paid for with taxpayer dollars. Now, you have to understand that the lawsuit that I brought on is an election challenge, and the primary defendant here is the candidate. She was a candidate, so the public has no interest. I mean, really, they do if they're criminals on who the supervisor of elections is, or any race, right? As long as it's fair. But the candidate got sued, and it said there's 36 attorney general opinions that state no, you can't use public funds, and some of them go back to if the acts are not within their scope of duty, which we have that covered 6 ways to Sunday. But then we have this straightforward opinion from an attorney. If you're suing, if the candidate's involved in an election challenge, they're the primary defendant. They have to pay for their own defense because the public has no real interest in this. And the public should be paying my legal fees, not hers. She's the criminal. She's the one who withheld records. She's the one who directed the Palm Beach County sheriff's officers to drag me out and not let me back into canvassing board meetings. I have all the incidents reports, 13 of them. One of them says I sent his picture to the off-duty permit officer on site. I sent his picture. They're identifying my authorized campaign designees. They went to their houses for no reason, but they didn't have an apartment number. And the sheriff wrote in the incident report, well, I noticed an American flag and an term limit sign, so I knew that was her apartment.
Jeez. Wow. So are you guys going to write this up? Are you going to put this out?
Yeah, we're writing it up. And we've been, past couple of days, we've been focusing on our cases that we have going. And
to get an appeal in on this right away. And they're just building. I mean, this is basically we're playing them in a sense where we're building our rights deprivation case, which I already brought in federal court, and I was found to have standing. And by Judge Cannon, and they're dismissing it. They're saying, "Oh, that doesn't matter. That case was thrown out." No, it was dismissed without prejudice. But the Judge Cannon ruled that I have standing on 2 charges. And back then, I was just, really didn't know what the heck I was doing. Thanks to Chris and everybody. I mean, now we're a lot more organized. We have a lot more evidence. We have like 30 affidavits. We have incident reports. We have denials of public records requests.
Terabytes and terabytes of evidence.
We need help in Palm Beach County. We need someone to step up. Everybody's all talk and no action.
Wow. Well, we're going to help, and we'll try to get it to the right people, because it's blowing up not just in Palm Beach County. In Georgia, you got similar stuff, and people are just, it's you can't even breathe. It stinks so bad, and I feel that is going on there. What else needs to get out, guys?
We need to raise some money. You need to, these transcripts are hammering us. I don't know if they're even charging the attorneys as much. They seem to be inflated. We printed like I don't know how many of these binders.
We probably spent about $2,000 in printing costs.
And they didn't look at one of it. They didn't look at any of it. We're up all night. I went there on 2 hours sleep. I'm going to get a 30-year freaking attorney, and because I was up all night, I'm going toe to toe, and we were printing binders and putting stickers on stuff, and they didn't look at any of it. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to see it, and they wouldn't let us speak about it.
So how do people that's point one. How do people help right now?
I got an easy URL. It's the standard HTTPS tinyurl.com/help Bonji, BONGI, help Bonji. So it's tinyurl.com/help Bonji, BONGI. The money's going to good cause. There's no overhead. Believe me, it's coming in. It's going out.
Well, I can vouch for that. You guys aren't going to Tahiti with this, that's for sure. So what about the appeal process? I mean, that's next, right? I mean, it looks like they almost did you a favor because they made it so bad you have an appeal. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, we want to establish case law because there's this 10-day rule that you have to bring your case within 10 days. And if you need records from the supervisor of elections and she takes 11 days, well, you're screwed.
And we saw that in my case. We've seen that in Bonji's case. I mean, we were sitting there in court, and public records request answers start pouring in while he's in court. I mean, if that wasn't
20 days ago, I needed it for the entry hearing. I requested them like 19 or 20 days in advance. And they ask a stupid question. Oh, you didn't capitalize that or something. And what do you mean? And as we're in the hearing, ding, ding, they start answering them. Like it's like that was like their screw you to me.
They did the same. It was the same thing that they did to me. In my case, and in all of the cases that I've been involved with. So I mean, this is a coordinated effort. Wendy Link is the president of Florida Supervisors Inc. Okay, that's the Florida Election Corruption Cartel, and this is a coordinated effort. They communicate all of this together, and this is a huge issue. And this really needs to be exposed, like Jeff had said, and like General Flynn often says, local action equals national results. And we need local action right now in President Trump's backyard because there's a lot of fraud going on there. I mean, Wendy Link, okay, she received more votes than both Kamala Harris and President Trump.
Well, so two quick things. Every single race in the county and 2 congressional seats were stolen. Oh, there was 500,000 votes cast in person in my race, and I won by 8,000 votes. 239,000 votes came in, and she won 75% of those votes, which we have problems on the distribution end when they went out with the identification verification, and then when they came back in. But here's another thing that really bothers me, and it should bother everyone in the country. Donald Trump owns a lot of property in this county, and he's funding this with his property taxes. And I did a chart of all of the incident reports of the demons, the Palm Beach County sheriffs following my people around, following me around, threatening and intimidating us. And guess what? In the middle of this all, you got Ryan Ralph getting on the golf course in Palm Beach County, 100 yards away of a headshot. And then
I think we're going to have to. I think we're going to have to embed a reporter with you, Bonji, and let him drive around with you and videotape.
You gotta get a GoPro on his head.
So is this the right URL? TinyURL help Bonji. Is that correct?
TinyURL.com.
Yeah, sorry, TinyURL.com.
Okay, let me edit that.
Yeah. TinyURL.com. Yep.
There we go.
There you go.
TinyURL.com help Bonji.
Yeah,
okay, my friend.
Yeah, these transcripts are like gold. We need them. It's we put their own words right back at them, and they're done.
No, I get it. I get it. I've seen Gleason in action. I've seen Batman in action in court. So we need the bat signal up in the sky over Palm Beach.
That's it.
So hey, guys, I want to have you back as you get more. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for the call last night. great stuff. And please write it
Thanks,
up for the
Todd.
Miami Independent, and we'll get it out there. Do what we can. Thank you very much. Take care.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Bye. The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cold open. You saw, and we put out an article months ago when we heard about this, that American contractors were going to be in Gaza handing out food. And I said at the time, this is not going to end well from a optics standpoint, from a security standpoint. And we've already seen that. And you had a video come out today where, American contractors were laughing at shooting some of the Palestinians. No matter the situation, that's not cool. And you knew that was going to happen. So who in their judgment is doing this? That's my question. Who is pushing this? And I'm not pro-Hamas. I'm pro-America, and I don't like America embarrassed. And so that's my beef with this. I mean, however you want to deliver the food or whatever, but don't embarrass my country with contractors who are obviously Americans, doing things that aren't great. So that's that. Also, you saw a Ukrainian operative in St. Petersburg placing a bomb under a car of a defense official in Russia. She was caught and busted. That's that video. You saw also a natural phenomenon on the beach. I have to get the location, somewhere in Asia. It looked like a tsunami, but it's actually a cloud rolling over the beach. Just fascinating. So I put that in. And then you had Candace Taylor in the great state of Georgia, who called us a witch, by the way. Saying the earth is flat, and it's just, God at the end of the day just flips us over. I mean, and it's obvious that the earth is flat because maps are flat. So this is who we're dealing with in Georgia, and there's a lot of corruption going on in Georgia, and the Georgia GOP just simply has to be cleaned out. I mean, it is, you have the Frost family business, who are the big donors, who, and we got more coming out on this. We got let me put that article up right now, actually, in Georgia. So if you go to Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, let me bring that up also, georgiarecord.com. You can find a lot of this coverage on what's going on in Georgia, just like Connecticut, just like Florida at the Miami Independent. We have papers around the country, and this is all funnels into this show. So you're getting this reporting at the SCIF, on the SCIF, that you're not getting anywhere else. And that's the magic. That's the secret sauce here at the SCIF. So go to georgiarecord.com. You can see all of this. But you also can read about what's going on in Georgia and the corruption and everything else. So check that out. We'll talk more about that later. I've got Danielle Rhodes coming on right now. I'm going to bring her in. Hey, is it Danielle or Danielle?
Close. It's Danelle.
Go ahead. Okay, Danelle. I should have known that. I should have asked Jackie. So
that's okay.
So fascinating. Tell us what you got going on in Nigeria. I mean, we're talking Christian persecution and, you know, supporting Christianity globally today. So what's happening in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, to be frank, Islamists are macheting and brutalizing and terrorizing and, you know, killing Christians indiscriminately. And it's not just Christians, actually. I mean, they're really trying to send a message. So they're, you know, if you're a moderate, they're not like checking your ID. They're just going into areas where that are known to be Christian. And you don't even have to be practicing Christian, or it's not about Catholic. It's not proper. Just if you're in that area, then you need to protect yourself, because they're doing it at night, which is extra terrifying, you know, and children, women, it's just absolutely chaos. I am on the board of a charity there that's, you know, 99% of our donations go directly to Mary Care. And it's really to give, you know, we do medical, it's a medical facility, but we also give like small donation, like small loans to people. Father Emmanuel is the president. He's Catholic priest, but it's not a Catholic charity, because, you know, we really want to make sure like as much of the proceeds go directly to the people there. It's, you know, it's in his village where he grew up. And so we have a really close connection to the people there. And it's just, you know, he's sort of unflappable. I think many priests are. You hear all kinds of things. You have to, you know, preside over funerals. And I've never seen him react this way, where he's like, actually, it's on the ground even worse than what's being reported. And so that's when I actually reached out to a number of my friends. I have some connection there. A friend of mine out in California had tried to open up some banks in the region. And so he had somebody on the ground, because in Nigeria, it's so corrupt. Like, you can't just hire security. I mean, we have security people we've been using for years, right? We can count on them. We can up that strategy. But all of the towns, the town that Mary Care is in, and all surrounding towns are using the young people and creating militias to protect their citizens. And anyway, it's the closest for me. He's like, well, you know, anyway, back to business. And I'm like, well, shouldn't we do a little bit more? But I think what's lost on Americans, and one of the reasons I love to be involved with this tiny little organization, is that it reminds me just how lucky I am. Like, we hit the lottery, really, just being born here. You know, it's just such a matter of their daily experience to be hunted, that it's like, oh yeah, well, we'll add some security. And so anyway, let's get on with the duties. And so, you know, even though I'm kind of used to it, because this isn't the first time that there, you know, of course there's unrest. Nigeria is practically a failed state. I mean, let's face it. It's, but the people there are beautiful people. I mean, I don't want to sound too sappy about it, but, you know, Father Emmanuel has really touched many people's lives here in the United States. And he came from a place that, in the face of persecution, his family has always kept their faith. It's really amazing. I don't think, I'm just like not that strong. I'm also not that faithful, I think. I mean, you're about to be struck down by saying that, but I don't know if I was living there, if I would be able to sleep at night or just be like, oh yeah, it's I would be asking too many like why me type of questions. It's very easy to be Christian in the United States.
So are you getting any support from any government organizations, whether it be Nigeria, the UN, the US, anything?
Well, I mean, I know the Foreign Legion is active in that area. And this is through a different that I don't know if that's actually formal, but I know that they're there. So we have not, like, our mission has not interacted with them at all. Of course, Father Emmanuel knows the Archbishop in the area. So do these, we have some mutual people, overlapping relationships. I know that they are creating a plan with the Vatican, but I mean, the problem with Nigeria is the military there is also failed. Like they're not, if they think they're going to be killed, they're like, well, see ya, they're going to retreat. Yeah. It's just such a crazy, really, it's like, just practically a state of nature. It's only through religion, and Islam is creating a different kind of environment for the people that are following that faith. And then there's Christians that are creating their own rules, because nothing is really enforced the way you would think of it here. I mean, yes, they have rules, and sure, they have media that will gain attention, but out in these little villages, it's, it's just a different situation.
You mentioned the Foreign Legion. I mean, there's a lot of governments that have, I guess, forces on the ground in Africa. I mean, big forces like European governments, like France, even Russia has a big presence in Africa. And these are allegedly Christian nations. So you're not getting anybody reaching out and saying, we'll help you. No,
not at all.
Wow.
I mean, we could try to reach out, but here's this, this is what I mean. Like, it's so normalized. This brutalization is so normalized there that I am much more concerned than Father Emmanuel is.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, well, we'll sure, might go south, but we'll recover.
Well, unfortunately, Americans are going to experience that as we get a lot of this imported into our country.
Absolutely.
And that's a whole nother problem we're going to have to deal with, because it's up in our grill right now, as you say. So what else do you want to get out, Danielle?
Well, I mean, of course, donations for Mary Care would be great, because we need to pay.
How they do that.
If you just go to marycare.org and donate, and you can see the button there. You can see, what we do, what the mission does. It's really tiny, a tiny little place, but it just touches so many people. And, because Father Emmanuel really, and our board really believes in not a handout, but, sort of the old traditional, I don't know where that comes from, like a handout. I think that's like a Republican thing from the 80s. But, we do charge small fees. So it's not like 100% free. That way, the people that are coming have buy-in. But it's also, I just want to point out, like, a friend of mine donated $5,000 a couple years ago. And we built an entire lab. Like, $1 can go so far. So if you think it doesn't matter, oh, well, I only have $20, like $20 US is a big deal there. So I would just, if you want to feel good about yourself, like you did your duty, man, Mary Care is, it's such a win-win situation, because all of the board members are American. And, we're paying very close attention to our budget. We know exactly every single penny where it goes, and it just goes directly to the mission. So it's such a feel good thing. It's kind of selfish of me to, like, I'm not doing very much except for being on the board and trying to promote it here and there, and, paying attention to what's going on in the region. And you get so much more out of it. We get videos all the time, just thanking us. And so it's a very rewarding thing to just give direct support to people that are in an untenable situation. And they're also very happy. I noticed this, like I travel internationally. I used to be a member of VOSH. I don't know if you know that group. It's Volunteer Optometric Services to Humanity. And the poorest people are often the happiest people. It's such an inverse, common sense, strange thing. So anyway, these are very, just really high-spirited, happy, wonderful people, super easy to help. So yeah, I would say that. But
and that's marycare.org.
Marycare.org. Yes.
Great.
And you'll see all of our links right there. But anyway, I just want to thank you for all of your work here in Connecticut. Jackie is so fierce and such a warrior, and just not afraid of anything. Anytime I find something, I'll send it to her. I had one article I wrote for her. I'm just totally have so many things going on. And I guess since you asked, I might as well just mention. So I'm the COO of FAIR. And I don't know if you know FAIR, but that's the foundation.
I know of it. Yeah, not well, but
racism. So likewise, my attitude towards sort of being very careful with OPM, other people's money, it's not the right acronym, is applied there. So I'm the COO and the CFO. And so we are really focused on our American experience curriculum. And so one thing, my worlds collide in that, it's such a reminder of how lucky we are, that my experience with, helping with Mary Care and the stories, good and bad and ugly. And then how that interacts with FAIR's mission, which is to just bring a different level of fairness. Fair for All is that's our website, fairforall.org. And it sort of says everything in the name, right? We're trying to be even-handed and fair. But one thing that I think is super important is to make sure that our children understand just how lucky they are.
So true.
So I think through our curriculum, it's actually an answer to the ethnic studies in California. And what ethnic studies does is just break people out. It puts them in boxes and race categories. Right. It's really critical race theory. And it's, some of these are liberated where it's really extreme, where it's, using that oppressor model, et cetera. And so what we've done is try to use pluralism to explain identity and assimilation and the various different ways that people interact, and why America is so special, and why it's really hard to live next to people that believe something different to you, and why it's so important. And so anyway, that's another cause that I think, every time something happens in Nigeria, I'm just like, thank God I was born here. Thank God my children are here. And it just underscores and gives me more motivation for what we're doing at FAIR. So anyway.
No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned the Connecticut Sentinel, ConnecticutSentinel.com, spelled with a C. We've really made a difference in Connecticut, kind of run to the sound of the guns there, because Connecticut's got some big problems. I mean, big problems, completely infiltrated in my view. But I think that may be changing. I mean, people are at least waking up to what's happening, and whether they can do something about it, we'll see. But please come back,
thanks
Danielle.
for your effort, actually. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll absolutely come back for sure.
All right. Take care. Have a great day.
All right. Bye. Thanks, you too. Bye.
The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human to human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human to human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
You're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. A lot going on today. Don't go away. We've got Roberty Kraychik from Canada to talk about the craziness going on in Canada. He'll be here in about 3 minutes. Used to be with Rebel News, used to be with Breitbart, and now up in Canada doing independent journalism. Real quick, let's talk to a couple stories. U.S. payrolls right before we opened the show increased by 147,000. That was a lot more than expected. So that's going to I guess cause a lot of ripples. It already is on Wall Street. It looks like, let's just see where the markets are right now as we speak. Hold on, I'll just check. I should have had this up already. But wow, S&P's up 50 points. That's big. And crypto, or at least XRP, is rallying. A little bit of a sell-off. Gold is a little bit off. Bonds, the 10-year about flat, up maybe 3 basis points. So equities are rallying on this news, and we'll see where interest rates takes us with the proof of a growing economy under President Trump. The other story I wanted to talk about is the SEC is ending regulation. If you go to Manhattan.press, you can see that, ending regulation through enforcement. This was a policy of Gary Gensler. It was very nefarious activity against crypto, because guess what? A lot of the crypto is for freedom, especially if it's decentralized. We're not talking CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, but if it's decentralized and there's no involvement of the government, it's actually a tool of freedom. So that's an important story. So you can find that on the Manhattan.press, our business channel. We're going to grow that as the CDM business outfit. And also the big, beautiful bill, at least I haven't checked recently, but in the last hour, but the big, beautiful bill didn't pass overnight. It's held up in the House. There's a bunch of congressmen, Republicans, who don't like the excessive spending and the changes the Senate made. So that's a problem for President Trump, and it's going to be a problem if that bill doesn't get through. My sense is it eventually will, and maybe people are just waiting for something, and maybe there can be a deal to be made. But President Trump has been working and whipping congressmen and senators overnight, I'm told, and very active in this whole process. So with that, Kraychik will be on in a second. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Roberty Kraychik. This one's short.
care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
True life Alp story. I got a call from a friend of mine yesterday, honestly, true story, who said his girlfriend had just broken up with him over Alp. He wouldn't stop. And I thought to myself, that's kind of sad. And he said, no, it's not sad. Imagine if I'd married her. Now I know I was saved. Then the next day, this same friend is driving at twice the speed limit through a major American city, pulled over by a cop in a speed trap. Cop takes his license registration, goes back to the patrol car, runs him, comes back, looks in the window, and sees a tin of Alp on the dashboard. Pauses, stunned, says to my friend, "You use Alp?" "Yeah, I do," says my friend. "So do I," says the cop. "We all do." He looks at my friend thoughtfully and goes, "Drive safely, sir," and hands back his license and registration. No ticket. So in 2 days, he's saved from a tragic marriage to a girl who doesn't like Alp and a speeding ticket. All true. It's more than a nicotine marriage.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Let's take that down. We're waiting on Robert Kraychik. He's going to be here in a second. He just texted me. But do you remember last week that the new Canadian Prime Minister, Carney, came out and said that they were putting in a, I think it was called an electronic digital services tax or something like that. It was a tax on American big tech. And it's very similar to what the EU did in trying to, I guess, take advantage of American companies, even if you don't like them. Let me just check this. Okay, he's saying one moment he's coming on as a mic issue. So we're waiting on Kraychik to come on. But Carney said, we're going to put this digital services tax on. And President Trump said, okay, no more negotiations with Canada. And there you go. And the Canadians hemmed and hawed and screamed and gnashed their teeth and wailed and gnashed their teeth. And then came back and said, okay, we'll drop the digital services tax. So that is the way Trump rolls. It's art of the deal. And when you're in a position of strength, you use it. And also in Canada, you have Ottawa, which is a province out west, Alberta out west. And that's where all the energy is. It's what creates all of the economic economic might of Canada, and they're talking about secession. So we've got a lot to talk about here. I see Robert's in the green room. Going to bring him in now. How you doing, my friend?
Pardon the technical difficulties. I'm doing okay. How's it going?
No worries, man. Good to see you again. So I wanted to have you on because Carney came out and was trying to push this. I think it was called a digital services tax or something like that. And then Trump said, okay, no more negotiations. And they wailed and gnashed their teeth, and then all of a sudden came back, well, let's talk again. We'll take that off. So where do things stand, the U.S.-Canadian relationship, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, just to give you a background on the DST, the digital services tax, what that was for the audience that doesn't know, it was going to affect any American tech company that had a total amount of revenue coming from Canadian customers at $20 million or above. So that would have been the so-called giants, Uber, Amazon, Facebook, Meta, AK, these companies. And it would have been retroactive, which is so sinister. It would have gone back all the way to July 2022. Imagine the tax agency going that way. Yeah, so it's like, so we have in Canada, the Canada Revenue Agency, it's our counterpart to your IRS. And just like, okay, we're going to go back a few years. So it would have been a 3% tax on all revenues obtained from Canadian customers via those companies. And that resembles a lot of what we've seen from the European Union, in which the EU is doing shakedowns on American tech giants because they're claiming that they seek to prevent a monopolistic or oligopolistic landscape. They're claiming the EU and their subsidiary economic courts that they want to maintain a free market environment in Europe, which is impossible to believe because the European Union is totally communistic in its orientation. They do everything they can to destroy free markets. It's like a 300, 400-pound fat guy talking to you about nutrition, acting to you like, you can't eat that cookie or
it's
something.
kind of a weird, like, commie-fascist combination, right? And it's because they're doing it in conjunction with state corporate or big corporations they like. I think
it's total extraction. It is. We see piggy bank. We see an ATM in the form of Google or Meta or any large company, Amazon, and we want to wet our beaks in there. We want to extract from American innovation. So rather than doing innovation themselves, they launch these so-called antitrust lawsuits. And again, if that's an issue, that's for the American government to determine. The same thing is the case here. The Canadian government sees these American companies as piggy banks to feed off of, and they just try to impose this DST, which has now been, rescinded in name only. It will be legislatively, but as of now, it's just tentative.
So there's been history in Canada, right? I mean, there was the election, and the narrative was that Canadians now hated Trump because of everything he was talking about. What's the reality on the street now that that's settled down?
I don't think that's ever really been the reality. I think the so-called Conservative Party in this country failed to think outside the box, to operate outside of the parameters set by the system in terms of what the defining issues of the election were. And it really was about Trump in terms of the way the CBC is like this Canadian government-run media monolith, right? So it's all about Trump, and we got to fight against him. And there was this sort of weak, quasi pseudo nationalistic fervor that was attempted to be generated by the machine. Again, the CBC, all these ancillary media outlets, but we've got to have our elbows up against this orange Hitler. And the so-called Conservative Party couldn't think outside of that box, couldn't be like, hey, actually, you know what? The election is not about Trump. And insofar as it is, we want to align ourselves with his vision, because the things that he's prescribing and applying to the American population is exactly the same remedy and antidote we need in this country. Canada's facing the same things you guys are. Demographic destruction, annihilationist parasitic government. There's really no difference. So I don't think that the Canadian population is really so anti-Trump. I think they're very disconnected, disaffected, disillusioned, despondent, and unwilling to get activated, especially when the ostensibly oppositional party can't really differentiate itself meaningfully from the status quo.
So I talk about this a lot in Europe, and I'm not excusing the U.S. because we have the same issues, but I see in Europe where they just simply don't have the will to survive. What do you see in Canada? I mean, you mentioned they don't have the will to activate. I mean, what needs to happen?
I think what needs to happen is you need a sort of Trump-like figure, or some sort of, what's that word I'm looking for? Sort of galvanizing individual around which these disillusioned, disaffected Canadians can coalesce and reclaim, reinvigorate, and pursue our own national identity. So you're talking about the will to live, and I'll add to that, to live for what? What is it to be Canadian? This is obviously an ongoing theme in your show. You and I have discussed this before. There is a crisis of national identity, and there are many reasons for that. The primary one, of course, is the forced diversification of society via modern immigration policies, where people don't really have the ties that bind in terms of historical commonality anymore. Used to be the case not that long ago that your neighbor, his grandfather went to war with your grandfather, or you've known each other for generations and generations. Now you may not know your neighbors because you just moved last week. There's all of this transient life. There's all of this, again, multicultural reality going on. So people don't have that cohesion. So there's got to be, to restore that will to live, to answer your question, some sort of figure around which we can develop some sense of national identity. Of course, it would be some element of civic nationalism because of the racial diversity, the ethnic diversity, the historical lack of commonality around which people could get together and be, okay, this is what it means to be Canadian. Let's have these principles. Let's hold them. Let's cherish them. Let's protect them.
Interesting. And people don't realize, that don't know their history, that Canada was very much supportive militarily of the wars in the 20th century with the Americans. I mean, from D-Day, Vietnam, all of it. What do Canadians think about, and what is the status of the Canadian military in your opinion?
I have only a very superficial understanding of it. I have been fortunate enough to meet some guys over the years, just given my travels, who are pretty elite in the military, some former, some still active. And a regular topic of discussion among them would be degradation in military standards. So they don't think the Canadian military is as prepared to do what it needs to do, for many reasons, one of which is this I'll call it left-wing politicization of the military, in which there's this deprioritization over just being good at what you're supposed to do. To borrow from the late Rush Limbaugh, a great military kills people and breaks things. It's
Yes,
really that
exactly.
simple. Can you
Yeah.
do that or not? It's not
Yeah.
about have I checked the box of a black guy and a Puerto Rican guy and a so-called homosexual guy. It's not about that. It's about
Yeah.
whether or not you're effective at your job. So that priority is being degraded in pursuit of these sort of ghost hunts of diversity and so-called inclusion. Lastly, we talked about this last time I was with you. The Canadian government for decades has been freeloading off of the US taxpayer in terms of these implicit security guarantees provided by the US military. So since we share geography, the Canadian government, all forms of them, again, for decades, have been like, you know what, we cannot invest in our national defense for the purposes of protecting our sovereignty because Big Brother US will take care of it if things ever get crazy. So that allows for the Canadian government to continually allow the military to atrophy, to decay technologically, okay, in terms of recruitment, because we've just got this sense of faith, maybe it's misplaced, that Big Brother America will bail us out if things get hairy.
Wow. What about Alberta? A lot of smoke there, you know, a lot of we're going to secede kind of talk. That's where all the economic engine is in Canada, right? Or at least a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it. What do you see happening there?
Well, I haven't paid close attention, so it's still to be determined. There obviously is a growing desire for, let's call it the Albertan separatist movement, to get going, because all the problems that they air in terms of their desires to be an independent state from Canada writ large, they're worsening. It's not like all of their grievances have gotten better. They've all gotten worse. They're getting taxed more heavily. They're getting governed more heavily in terms of their freedom to do things. You know, those things that are not exactly economic, but how you can move, how you can't, where you can leave, these regulatory things. Immigration obviously is run by the federal government. So demographic destruction will affect Alberta because of what's happening in Ottawa. So these sorts of problems that the Albertan separatist movement, sovereignty movement, whatever you want to call it, are not getting any better. So they're going to get more aggressive. Will they have success? I don't know.
What else do people need to know?
I made a couple of notes here just so people could keep get some sense. You know, those in the U.S. Some things I want to share with your audience is that, you know, the Canadian government sought to do this DST, okay, digital services tax on these U.S. giants, because it thought this would be some sort of easy way to steal some U.S. dollars, okay?
Yeah.
And we always hear about government spending as a share of GDP. Now, the official numbers as far as the federal government spending as a share of Canadian GDP is something like 20%, which of course is way, way low. That's not the reality of it. And I want Americans to understand, because this applies to how you're deceived by your institutions as well. So when you see the government say U.S. government spending composes X percent of U.S. GDP, understand that that percentage does not include all of these forced costs that the government puts on you that aren't captured as government spending. For example, if the government says you must use this sort of product in the construction of homes, that's not captured as a tax. But yet every home in America might have to do that, right? So think of all the things the federal government regulates, all the things the federal government mandates upon employers and employees and businesses and homeowners to do this, that, and the other. That is an unthinkable amount of money. And that doesn't get captured as government spending. So in this country, when you actually include that, I checked some think tanks in this country that are, let's say, conservative, at least in terms of fiscal and economic policy. Government spending as a share of GDP in this country, in Canada, is 64%.
Holy cow.
That means 64 cents out of every dollar circulating in this economy is basically government mandate. And I'm bringing that up because at 64%, and that's just the federal government, that is not municipal governments, that is not provincial or territorial governments. That's not enough for them. That does not satisfy them. They still want billions of dollars from Meta and Amazon. Again, the point is they're insatiable. And I just want the audience to understand that this government, there's no amount of money they can take that will ever satisfy them. It's always more cowbell. They need more of it and more of it.
Well,
And,
we're in Atlas Shrugged territory now. I mean, right? I mean, the Department of Government Efficiency, or whatever they called it in the book. I mean, it's amazing.
One more thing I want you folks to know
Yeah.
about, we talk about national identity and nationalism and so forth. And this is one thing that's very sad. There are like sort of two competing nationalisms in this country. I'll say one is left wing and fake, and one is more conservative and grounded in Canadian history and reality. So the fake left wing nationalism in this country, which got sort of rejuvenated to some degree via the election by making it about Trump. It's all about who's going to go harder on Trump. So very sadly, the left-wing Canadian vision of national identity is very much about what it opposes, and that is America. It's about what we're not. So if you talk to one of these like left-wing bots, these sort of non-thinking NPC types, they define Canadian identity on universal healthcare. Oh, we've got free healthcare. That's what makes us Canadians. Which, I mean, there's so much to unpack right there. Nothing's free.
Yeah,
it's a disaster.
sure.
It's getting worse. But it's all about how we're not American. And there's a currency, a political currency that relates to what I'll call anti-Americanism, for lack of a better term, that the left-wing politicians use to sort of galvanize support for themselves. Like, who can be more disdainful towards our unruly neighbors to the south, the less sophisticated, more freedom-minded, gun-toting freaks to the south. And that's the fake, hollow Canadian nationalism of the left, which is all about what it opposes as opposed to what it actually stands for.
Fascinating. How do people follow you? What are you up to these days, Robert?
Check me out on X, Kraychik, things to come. Stay tuned.
Excellent. All right, man. We'll have you back. Take care.
Cheers, brother.
Ciao.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight. And then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this. You take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We're flogging over Africa. Flogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. As mentioned earlier in the show, we're going to be running something patriotic tomorrow. Won't be a live SCIF, but it'll be something very interesting. So stay tuned for that and enjoy your July 4th holiday weekend. I want to also talk about if you're looking, it's summertime. College is coming up before you know it. If you need to outfit your kid, if they just graduated and need a new apartment, go to mypillow.com. Check out all their gear. pillows, sheets, towels, pajamas, bathrobes, dog wear, other clothing, dog beds, etc. So check them out. Spend some time on the website, mypillow.com. Use promo code CDM. You'll get the best discounts. That's promo code CDM. And see all they have to offer. Don't go to the big box retailers and give them your money that hate you and want to kill you, literally. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code CDM. Spend some time, see what they have to offer. He has over 500 products. Also, this is a silver round. You probably need some of these. If we have some kind of cyber attack or whatever, you're going to need to be able to barter for food or whatever. These coins are 1 ounce of silver. They're running around whatever that ounce of silver is right now, $36. Have a lot of these on hand. You can get them at CDM Metals. Go to cdmmetals.com, cdmmetals.com, fill out the form, and the team at Advisor Metals will contact you. We have checked them out completely. We highly recommend them. They're on our team. They're professionals. They're patriots, and we have had a transaction this week. I got some excellent feedback that, all he did was call me and talk to me, and then we decided what to do, and this one individual is going to be buying something every month for the next year. So really appreciate the professionalism at Advisor Metals, and you can find everything about them at cdmmetals.com. If you fill out the form, they'll contact you, or you can get all their contact details. So with that, really appreciate you being on the SCIF today, and just a lot going on. And thank you for all your support. We'll see you live back Monday, but check us out tomorrow for something patriotic on the 4th. Take care.